these are two 335s, ESP made ones. I brought out my storage. One of them I use most of the time. You'll see me using this one here, and we're going to talk about this one in a minute. These really are, for all intents and purposes, these are ESP custom shop made guitars. And I mean, ESP started actually the year I was born, which was 1975. So ESP and myself share the same birthday. So if you work that out, it's 50 years. The ESP has been going for 50 years, and I've been going for 50 years as well. But anyway, I digress. So this guitar was made in the 90s, and so was this one. These are 90s. These are 90s guitars, and the whole history of 335 and Navigator and ESP is that ESP started as a hire company. They used to hire out vintage gear because they had access to flying V's and SG's and Strats, vintage Strats from the 50s and 60s, and Gibsons. And so in 1975, just in 1976, they started the Navigator brand, which you can see here. And what all Navigator was, the reasoning was this: the more original shapes, like heavy metal, pointy headstock guitars, went to America and Europe, and they were branded ESP. And then anything which was a more copyrighted guitar shape, like this one here obviously, stayed in Japan and went under the name Navigator. And there was a reason for that. It's because Japan doesn't have the same copyright laws as the rest of the world. In Japan you can copy things, you know, and that's why there's lots of copies of, you know, Rolex, I guess Rolex watches and all kinds of things, I don't know. But anyway, there's no copyright law as we know it in United States and in England and Canada and so forth. So that's the reason. That's why you'll see Navigators. You'll see me playing a lot of Navigators, but really they're just ESPs. They're just ESPs which have either the Gibson shape or the Fender shape, and were designated for sale only in Japan. So these are ESP guitars that were only available in Japan, and that they were given the Navigator brand. So don't think that Navigator and ESP are two different entities. They're not. They are just the exact. You know, it's the ESP factory, and the guitars that are only sold in Japan are called Navigator. Okay, so really these are ESP, and these weren't models that they offered in the catalogue. You know, you could get a Japanese catalogue which would have the Navigator brand in, which were the copies of Gibson and Fenders, and then you had the rest of the world catalogues which didn't have the Navigators, because obviously the Navigators were only available in Japan due to the copyright laws. These only featured the 335s made by ESP, branded Navigator, were in the first catalogues. You know, we're talking like late 70s, early 80s, and they were first of all they were made by Kasuga, I think Kasuga factory made Bernie guitars and Fernandez, if memory serves me right, and they were a little bit of a cheaper style build, but still good quality, and in some cases nitro cellulose, and then they went to ESP in-house. And you can tell those ones because they've got these two dots on the 12th fret. They're very far. The necks are generally thinner, but I think they have nitro cellulose, and they have a scarf joint here. So that's how you can tell the first incarnation of an ESP made 335, branded, of course, Navigator, because it's the copyrighted guitar. And those were quite good quality. They had thinner necks on those ones though. And some people like them, some people don't. You know, I've never played one of them. I played one of the early ones, which I didn't care too much for, but they're not bad. They're not bad at all. And I've never played the early ESP ones. Now, then they disappeared from the catalogues. The 335 shape resurfaced in 1995. Don't ask me how I remember all this stuff. They resurfaced in the catalogue in 1995, but for a very astronomical price of 700,000 yen, which equated to about $5,000 or pounds. And just bear in mind, in 1995 you could buy a 52 or 53 Telecaster original for the same price. So they were very expensive guitars. And the reason they were so expensive was because they were made from all solid wood. So this is a 1995 all solid wood flame maple guitar. Okay, we're going to hear that in a minute, and you're going to tell that it's not quite like a 335, you know. This one was made in the late 90s. It has a bit of a strange serial number on it, but again, the thing about the all solid wood ES-335, which was made in '95, and this one, you're going to notice that they're two bits of wood stuck together here and at the back, you know. And this has a nice flame maple on it here, but this is not a solid guitar. This is a 3-piece laminate. Okay, so this is much more like a real 335. These are both very nice weights. They're 7.5 pounds, so they fall into a nice sort of weight category. And but this one here is really, it's got a big fat neck on it. This one here, however, the all solid wood one, has a more comfortable neck. I wouldn't say it's a thin neck, but it's a nice medium-sized neck on it. A very, very comfortable neck on this one. This one, however, has a big bit of a chunky neck. Now, I've owned about 40 Navigators 4.0. Not all at the same time, obviously, but I've sort of bought and sold. But I've gone through 40 Navigators of all types, you know, the Fenders and the Gibson style guitars. And just from the build quality, the shape of the neck, and just the way they do the frets and the binding here and the neck, you know, all these little things, I can just tell that this is a late 90s. This is a late 90s guitar, maybe 1998, 1999, around that time, you know. Also, you can tell by the lacquer, the nitrocellulose lacquer. This is cracked. The lacquer on this guitar is all kind of starting to crack. This red one here, 95, the nitrocellulose is really cracked on this to an obscene amount. So the whole thing it's a pretty worn, weathered guitar. It's really, this one's a bit, because this is a newer guitar. Well, it's only maybe 3-4 years old, newer than the red one, but this one, particular one, has been really well looked after. It's been really, so this is what I would call more of the mint sort of condition. This one here, however, has really been played in. You know, there's paint missing here, there's gouges in the neck, you know, there's a bit of wood missing from the top of the headstock, you know, another chunk of wood missing here on the F-hole. So this one's been really played in. This one is mint, but it's got divots. It's got divots in the wood. So this is like, you know, to get divots in the wood, you've got to play the guitar a lot. You've got to play the guitar a hell of a lot to have divots in the wood. So that's really what my takeaway from Japanese players is that they really cherish and really love their guitars, and they'll have one and just play it so much. And I really love that. I think that's fantastic. You know, rather than having 20, you know, which I'm totally guilty of, and then never playing any of them. Playing one or two of them, you know. But there you go. That's another story for another time, man. Right. So this one's just got a great sound to it. They come with great pickups, although I've taken these pickups out. But originally this one here has the original pickups, and these are the hand-wound Marcella, Samuel Duncan, 95, around 1995, 94, or maybe even earlier pickup. Samuel Duncan when I think her name was M Marcella or something, or Havers, and she was a winder. She still is a winder at the custom shop. So these ones, are going to hear these ones in a minute. These ones these were hand wound for me by an English maker who I fell out with. We'll go into the whole story as a whole. There's a video there coming one day. I'll tell the whole thing. But he used to wind me pickups, and I used to promote them. But then we fell out. But these particular this set is actually out of phase. You know. So you can kind of guess what I'm going for there. However, it's a great sounding set. On the back pickup, we've just basically got a path. So these are just great pickups, but I can't tell you. This again, I'll tell you this another time. But anyway, so this group sounding pickups. This is like an incredible guitar. This is just like probably my favourite guitar that I. My friends always say to me, "Oh, you know, you change your favourite guitar every week," but definitely this is one of the go-to guitars. And so this is really good. And if I just, and I like these speed knobs. You know, they came with speed knobs, and my whole thing is when I get a guitar, if I like it, I just leave it as it is. There's no point changing it. So that kind of acoustic sound is very much like a 335. And what I might do in the future, in like next week even, is do an AB with this and the Bob's one. But it's just a great, really. So you know, when you're playing a 335, you really kind of, for me, it kind of does a few things. But one of the things it does is it's in the middle of jazz and blues. You know, so if you've got and that kind of R&B funk, you know, let's play B.B. King Thriller's Gone. So for that sound, you just can't beat a 335 for that kind of thing. You know, it's just really, really great. You know, just playing, you know. So all of that kind of stuff is really fantastic, and that stuff just kind of pulls out of it. So there you go. This is definitely the most accurate, I think, 335 that ESP probably ever made, and it's this one. This is the one, and I can tell you that because obviously a good friend of mine and I do a channel with him called the Bob and Ramon Show. Bob has a 59 335, the real deal, and this is the one. This is very, very close to that in terms of feel and sound and specs, and you know, it's got the nitro on it, the correct neck shape, and like I said, this is probably and ESP don't release these as a standard model. If you want that, you go to Edwards, which is a cheaper make, but these are made in the custom shop, super rare. And you know, this is one to have if that's what you want, a 335. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with the Gibson, nothing wrong with the Gibson custom shop. I'm not saying that, but if you want the real 335 sort of sound, then this is the one. So let's go to the solid body. This guitar's a little bit longer than I expected. So this one here, first of all, what's interesting about this? We've got I think these are witch hats. And they in 1995 up to 1995, all the semi-acoustic, the SA Navigator ESP guitars had these witch hats, which I rather like. I like that. Let's hear it unamplified. So let's just compare that to this. So that was an all solid. This is all solid flame maple. This is ply. Now the strings are actually quite new on this, they're brand new. On this one they're very old, and these are vintage style strings from Pyramid. This is moving a bit more air, this one, but it's mellow because of the strings. But let's hear some sounds, and these are the Seymour Duncan. I'm just going to turn down a bit here. value guitar, very different, a little bit different to you know, the real deal, kind of this one here, which has got the laminate. When I say real deal, I mean real deal as in the construction style. But here's the deal: this is again an ESP Custom Shop guitar. These are the most, this is the most, I think, elaborate, one of the most elaborate guitars ever, because it's just the construction. I mean, I don't know how, if they pressed the top or it's hand carved. My guess is just from looking at it, it's a hand carved top. It's two pieces, but this is solid flame maple, and it's got solid flame maple sides as well. So, you know, this is going to be a pretty, you know, it could be a Brazilian board on this. This is a pretty bespoke and very, very beautiful instrument. The fact that this is really sort of worn in and again really played in, as I was talking about earlier, just makes it just a beautiful guitar, you know. So, but out of the two, I generally play this. If I was to play these, you know, which next year I'm going to be playing more blues, I'll probably choose this one here. But maybe rotate them. I mean, this is, I love them both for various reasons. But this is a really fantastic, very, very comfortable neck. You know, it's probably the most comfortable neck that I own on a guitar. So there you go. Okay guys, thanks for watching this video. It's been a pleasure to show you my two ESP made 335s. Again, these are really the height of ESPs, really the height and peak of their manufacturing and craft work. This one was a 95. This was probably part of a small run of maybe 5 or 10 instruments that they made, all solid wood, you know, and they would have made them over a couple of, maybe 2 years or something. Just incredible, outstanding, you know, craft work, really. And this particular one, this is a late 90s order model, what you call an order model. So the customer, even on the case, wrote ESP semi-acoustic, because he, you know, as far as he was concerned, it was an ESP 335, which it is. And you know, this is a one-off. This is probably one of the best, if not the best, Navigator I've ever played. This one here. And this one here is obviously an outstanding instrument in its own right. Obviously, the real 335s, as far as I can tell, they were never solid. They were either 3 or 4 piece laminates, and then the thickness of those laminates varied, of course. But so this was a guitar that never was, but maybe should have been. I don't know. It's got a block in it, which is interesting because, you know, you'd think if you're going to go to this trouble and make it solid, you might as well have it hollow. But it's as a 335 is with the block going through it, but it's just got, you know, all the woods here are solid. And this is more your conventional 335, but yeah, just incredible. These are you know, two of my favourites. You know, I've got a lot of favourite guitars, like my Daniels Les Paul is kind of a go-to instrument. These, my new DC double cut Daniels also. My Chapman Trez guitar, you know, so I'm kind of got a lot of options, but really these are the ones that I'm like, just in terms of like the great 50s Gibson Fender style, these are the best. So, you know, and there's nothing to say anything bad about Fender or Gibson. You know, they're great. I mean, they make incredible instruments now. You know, I mean, you know, the old instruments are obviously the benchmark, but there's some great makers, like I said, Daniels guitars and Chapter guitars to check out, and obviously ESP. You know, ESP does an amazing thing. You can find ESP Technical House on Instagram, and it's always nice just to look at, you know, what they're coming up with. And that's the custom shop for ESP. And if you're into heavy metal guitars, you know, they do some incredible, beautiful pieces there. So definitely check out ESP Technical House. Definitely check out Chapter guitars, and definitely check out Daniels guitars. You know, all of which have Instagrams, and making my favourite guitars. Those 3 companies are my favourites. Yeah. So there you go. Oh, not to mention Guild with the Artist Award that we used today as well. Thanks very much for watching this video. See you soon.